The evidence suggests that firms that export perform better. They generate more profit. This is likely to be due to a number of factors. For example, greater opportunity for growth by going across different markets, reduced dependence on any one market in particular. It could also increase the commercial lifespan of the product or service that the business provides. And by growing, it also improves the stability and credibility of the business from a brand perspective. It could also provide larger economies of scale, which in turn should lead to better margins within the business. And at this point in time, exporters are benefiting from reduced exchange rates. This is making the UK's products cheaper abroad. And it's happening at the same time as the UK economy climate is uncertain. So not only does this represent an opportunity to export, but it is also a good way of managing the risk. For many, the idea of exporting could be daunting, but it needn't be. In order to perform successfully in new international markets, your business usually requires a solid domestic foundation. If your business isn't enjoying healthy profits, it's dangerous to assume that by adding export markets, you can improve your company's performance. Key questions around this include things like, are your products and services successful and widely sold in your current or domestic markets? Do you have a robust and sustainable domestic strategy and business plan? Does your firm have specific advantages over the competition? Do your products or services have at least one unique and transferable selling point? Are your products and services competitively priced? If the answer to these questions is generally positive, then you could well have scope to export. So how do you determine which market or markets to enter? Forming your export strategy comprises a number of key areas. One of the first things you might like to consider is which market you want to be in. Choosing a market has itself a number of key considerations. First one being, how big is that market and what's the growth potential within it? How many customers may you obtain within that market? What sort of spend do they have on products or services like yours? How will you make your product stand out from the competition? And how many competitors are there? And then there's the stability within the market. So in terms of the economic and political environment, how stable is it? What does the legal framework look like? And will you be able to operate within that legal framework? And then there's the accessibility of the market. So where is it based? What sort of regulations exist within that market? For example, on tariffs. And what sort of cultural norms and language barriers might there be? Doing business in Saudi Arabia is very different from doing business in Kenya, which again is very different from doing business in Australia. The more you can link into the other person's preferred way of doing business, the more successful you will be. And also there will be a need to decide how to reach your market. There are a number of options here, for example, direct export from the UK, perhaps via e-commerce. In this scenario, no presence at all is required in a country with which you want to trade. Conversely, you might want to set up an overseas operation, invest in a defined sales distribution and maybe manufacturing capability within a new market. There are a number of other options as well, appointing an agent so they act on your behalf, or perhaps a distributor, someone who can take on your product for the market that they know better than you. Or lastly, perhaps licensing or franchising, someone who also takes on your brand within the market as well as the product. Some of these have higher investment requirements and risks attached to them, so it may be that a distributor approach is best to start with before setting up an overseas operation. So far we've focused on the opportunity, the market, the product, how to reach international customers. But there are some things to consider within your own organisation, including your staff. Have you got enough staff to support exporting? What about the management structures within the organisation? And what skills and experience do you need to supplement what you already have within your workforce? What about physical resources? For example, premises. Do you need to increase the floor space within your premises? Do you need any more machinery? Or do you need to increase the capability from an IT perspective? And what about the supply chain and distribution? Making sure third-party supply relationships can accommodate any increased volume that you're anticipating. You also need to ensure that route to market is planned from a logistics perspective, particularly if it includes shipping. And lastly, what about your financial arrangements? So for example, if you need to purchase increased number of assets, or making sure increased volumes and potentially different payment terms are factored into your cash flow forecasts. And with exporting comes specific needs from a trade finance perspective when you're trading overseas. So what arrangements have you made in relation to that? Exporting could be very beneficial to your business, and for many is worth exploring. To sum up, some key points to remember include: do your research and have a very well formed strategy. Be clear on which markets look most attractive, the potential size of those markets, as well as politically, economically and culturally. Determine your market entry. Some are easier and less risky than others. Understand the basis of competition. And ensure that the general internal setup of your organisation can accommodate exporting. Finally, make sure your cash flow, asset and trade finance needs are clear and appropriate products put in place. If you bear these things in mind, it increases your chances of success.